Hi, my name is Katlyn Truitt, and this is my audience. So audience, out of these list of drugs, alcohol, opium, caffeine, LSD, cocaine, and marijuana, which one do you think is most widely used? This is a list of psychoactive drugs, which when used, has an impact on thinking, mood, or behavior. This is accomplished through the manipulation of the central nervous system. Believe it or not, the answer is caffeine. From a recent report in the Science News, it stated that caffeine ranks as the most widely used psychoactive drug in the world. From morning until night, people are using some type of caffeine to give them energy to get through the day. It may be that first cup of coffee in the morning or the late day energy drink that gets them through the rest of the day. Caffeine can be found in many forms, and how it affects the body is due to the amount which is consumed. This leads into what my speech is about and the reason for it. The reason for my speech is to inform people about caffeine and be aware of the advantages and disadvantages of caffeine and how it affects your body. First, I will discuss what caffeine is and where it is found. As stated in an article, Teen Health, caffeine is a drug that is naturally produced in many leaves and seeds of many plants. It is also produced artificially and added to certain foods. Caffeine is defined as a drug because it stimulates the central nervous system, increasing alertness. Caffeine can be found in many things, such as coffee, tea, soda, energy drinks, chocolate, pain medications, and other over-the-counter drugs. Coffee is one of the most popular drinks that caffeine can be found in. According to Harvard Health Letter, in the past year, in 2011, researchers have found recent findings that coffee drinking is associated with a lower risk of depression among women, a lower risk of lethal prostate cancer among men, a lower risk of strokes among men and women. Also, coffee has protective effects against diseases such as Parkinson's disease, to some types of diabetes, and to some types of cancer. Rebecca Coffee states in an article, 20 Things You Didn't Know About Coffee, that the world consumes close to 1.6 billion cups of coffee every day. Coffee is the second most widely used product after oil. It's also the second most popular drink after water. Popular with kids and consumed on a daily basis are varieties of energy drinks. In the Harvard Health Letter, coffee consumption accounts for about 75% of the adult intake of caffeine in the United States. Although that might be changing among younger adults with the growing popularity of energy drinks. The usage statistics of energy drinks are actually very surprising. One type of energy drink, called 5-Hour Energy, is consumed more than 3 million times each day within the United States alone. Luigi Gallerberti used a fact in its article titled Energy Drink Consumption in Children and Early Adolescents, stating the usage of energy drinks increased significantly with age, from 17.8% among 6th graders to 56.2% among 8th graders Among the male student population, 16.5% of the 8th grade and 6.21% of those among the 6th grade respectively drank them at least once a week. Now that I have discussed the meaning of caffeine and where it can be found, I will now identify the advantages or the positive effects of caffeine in a body. Caffeine can be used in a positive way and therefore can benefit a person in some ways. From an article, Is Caffeine the Pick-Me-Up Cause? A popular positive effect of caffeine is it can be beneficial in times when a person needs to stay awake and focused. An example of caffeine having a positive effect on a person's body is when a truck driver needs to stay awake and alert during a nightly road trip. Another example could be when a student needs to stay motivated during studying for a final exam in college. Caffeine can be positively used when a person needs to stay focused on a task at hand during many hours, such as a nurse taking care of a severely sick patient. Another positive effect of caffeine is it can prevent a person from experiencing Alzheimer's disease. Finally, I will discuss the negative effects in caffeine or the disadvantages of caffeine. One negative effect of caffeine is it can raise heart rate. As quoted in an article by Robert Rao, Acute Effects of Caffeine on Heart Rate Variability in Habitual Caffeine Consumers. Recently, the long-term effects of caffeine, 250 milligrams twice per day over 2 weeks on HRV, were investigated in patients with long-standing type 1 diabetes. It is well known that those patients are at risk of autonomic failure and sudden cardiac death. Heart rate can increase relating to an excessive amount of caffeine intake. High heart rates sometimes cause a person to go through heart palpitations or heart flutters after consuming caffeine. Caffeine can also affect a person's blood pressure and make it increase. Negatively, it can act as a diuretic that reduces water content in the blood. I now want to take a few moments to review some of the main points that I have discussed in my speech regarding caffeine. First, I discussed what caffeine is and where it can be found. Then, I discussed the positive effects of caffeine or the advantages of caffeine. I then followed up with the negative effects of caffeine or the disadvantages of caffeine. All of this information regarding caffeine should give you all a better understanding of what it can or cannot do to your health. In conclusion, caffeine is and will continue to be popular and widely used by many people in the world. Caffeine comes in various forms and can cause positive and negative effects on a person's health. There is no harm in exposing your body to caffeine as long as you monitor the amount consumed daily. So now that you know the facts about caffeine, there is no need to deprive yourself from having a good energy drink or a steaming hot cup of coffee.